Ace Podcast.
Hey, I'm Eddie.
And I'm John from Moderately Informed.
And you're listening to Vaguely Accurate on the Ace Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Vaguely Accurate. DK here. As always, I am your host, and today I'm delivering you something special. I have recently had the opportunity to attend Communicate to Inspire, a conference for science communicators to better equip themselves with skills and knowledge for the public engagement and outreach. The theme for the event was digital disruption in a post-truth world. I have compressed over 8 hours of content into 30 minutes for you, containing highlights of the event and showcasing some of the most thought-provoking and enlightening parts of the presentations. Briefly before we get started today, I would just like to do a quick shout out for Sabre, or the Staffy and Bully Breed Rescue Agency. I am a foster carer for them, taking in dogs in need, and they're a pet rescue that's non-for-profit service connecting Australia's rescue groups with potential adopters like you. They rely on the kindness of pet lovers. They do an amazing job saving lives and rehoming dogs. If you can check them out, I've put them as a link in the description just to see what they're about. That's more than I can ask. Thank you very much. To get us started, let's listen to Renee, coordinator of the Fireballs in the Sky project, to open up the event for us.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us for the Communicate to Inspire conference. This is the third, and it's brought to you by SciTech, by Inspiring Australia, and by the Australian Science Communicators here in Western Australia. Our theme is future planning in a post-truth world with digital disruption. Now, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone in this room that people make decisions based on their beliefs. But I think what's alarming recently is that this belief-based decision-making is in realms of spaces that were once sacred, that were once for evidence-based decision-making, to allow evidence, information, to help guide. So today we're exploring these challenges, and there's a lot.
The most important aspect of marketing your content, whether it be for a product, a service, or for the communication of science, is to pick your target audience. You will now hear from Alice Ryder, Senior Project Officer at the WA Museum here in Perth, who delivers some important factors to consider when deciding on your audience wants and needs.
This talk is going to hopefully set a nice scene for our talk that follows with Susan, and we're going to be talking a lot about that relationship between an organisation, whether it's a museum or a science centre or the Water Corporation, and the audiences who they're communicating with. People are made up of a mix of lots of different things. Demographics help us explain people. An 8-year-old boy is probably more likely to be really into dinosaurs than an 85-year-old woman, but some 85-year-old women love dinosaurs. And some 8-year-old boys somewhere in some universe, I'm sure, don't. The other way we can look at explaining people is to talk about their psychographics. So that's about their motivations. If your demographics is who or what you are, your psychographics is why you care about something or your motivations. So if you're a 35-year-old woman coming to the museum with your 2 kids, your motivations are probably going to be pretty different to if you're that same woman but you're coming with your mum or with your boyfriend or on your own. So your motivations for visiting. Do you want to have a social experience at a museum and have a nice time with your family? Do you want to come and be a really active learner? That's another psychographic motivation. Do you want to have a spiritual, calm, contemplative, get away from the universe and look at some beautiful things experience? Or do you want to have an emotional experience? There are lots of different ways to categorise psychographics or motivations, but those 4 things tend to be common to most of the models. So they're the ones that I use, hoping that if they're in a lot of them, they're probably around about right. Scientists are super weird people. Their brains work a bit differently to how most people's in the public work. Scientists love thinking with their head. We love facts and we love figures and we love reasoned debate and we love to shift our attitudes when we get some new information. But most people, if you took a sample of 100 people from the public, most people are not ruled by their head. A few more people are ruled by their heart. They're ruled by emotion. As a little bit of a summary, visitors aren't all the same. Please remember that. Also, I think, I didn't say this explicitly, but we should give our visitors more credit. They're people who have lived full lives, they know smart and amazing things. When we've interviewed people about different topics, they've often got personal recollections of going to a place, or say, oh actually, I'm a geologist, let me lay some geology knowledge on you that I didn't know. People are smart, and if we go into an interaction with them assuming they're smart, they'll usually jump up and be smart. If you go in and talk to people like they're dumb, sometimes they'll teach you a lesson and they'll behave in a dumb way. So audiences are real people with amazing knowledge. Please treat them with respect and think highly of them as a general rule. Remember that your own views and preferences might not be the same as everybody else's. Look for relevance. And if you want to know what people want, go and ask them.
Now that we have identified our audience, it's time to consider the method and style of our delivery for the content. Gregor Robotham, a Cosmos consultant and the Outreach and Education Officer for the International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research, or ICA, provides some insight upon what resonates with an audience or group, how we can present ourselves, and what we can do to make an audience trust us more.
I'll give yourself some background on myself. I think I do a lot of presentations now, I do a lot of performance now, I do a lot of improv, a lot of theatre, but this is something that's very hard won and very, taking me a long time to learn. When I was 16 years old, I literally could not answer a telephone. Could not. Someone would ring me, friends would ring me up, someone would ring me for a date, and my mother would have to answer the call, which is always a sexy look, and say, there's someone on the phone for you, it's a person you like, you should probably talk to them. I'm like, oh, I can't possibly. So basically, charisma, I don't believe is actually intrinsic to people. I never have. And that's because I don't think I'm particularly charismatic, I think I'm loud, but people mistake that for charisma. And I think that charisma is something you have to be taught, or you have to learn how to be charismatic. For example, I've never met a baby who I've gone, oh my God, this baby is so charismatic. Let the room change us. We don't change the room. It's very important to learn how to change the room. So very effective people, very charismatic people, change the room around them. They don't let the room change them. You may have read the research. If you smile, if you've no reason to smile, you go, the dog's dead, the car's exploded, blah, 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 it's a bad day. But then you smile, and you just, even if you just do the horrible fake smile and your eyes don't move, you know, your brain goes, why is Face smiling? Will anyone know why Face is smiling? Face, why are we smiling? I don't know. We might as well dump endorphins in the body. And it does. You faking a smile makes you smile. I know, obviously, but it makes you feel like you want to smile. So you can actually make yourself feel better by making the physical actions. So by taking a high status persona, keeping your head still, staying more still, your body starts to say, I must be in control. I must be alive. I must be the person who can attack, we'll think of it that way, but not be attacked. You can fake it. And in the end, you'll start to be in more control. So you can actually slow yourself down, and you can actually start going, no, it's about me right now. Science communication is about communication. It's about dialogue. It's about a connection between people. Though I am very impressed with science communicators who have done well and are teaching science around the world, I'm talking about Brian Cox, I'm talking about Carl Krasnodesky, all these amazing people, I think we are in a dangerous position where people like us who are not these amazing, like pretty, oh, Brian Cox is so pretty, these pretty science, people stop listening to us as science communicators because we're not Professor Brian Cox. We're not Dr. Carl Krasnodesky. They should be listening to us as well. We have something to say. But the difference is they can get on stage and talk, but they're not going to be able to create a dialogue because normally they're on TV or normally they're on a radio or something like that. We have the power to actually create a dialogue. We have one-on-one interaction, and here's where the power lies for us. We have to create that dialogue between people to make it personal. Because something I've known about teaching students in schools, there's a certain age of high school students where you're like, grade 8, grade 7, grade 8, it's fantastic. They're like, science, yes, science. Even early primary school, late primary school, science, 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 science. And then suddenly parts of their body start changing and certain endorphins kick in, and was it exciting? And suddenly they're like, humans. And basically we've lost them until they're like 35. If you don't know how to talk to people or make a communication, the first thing you should learn is to use your weapon of choice, your voice. This is an instrument. The instrument needs to be worked on. You're not going to just go, the flute, jazz flute. You're going to have to learn how to use your instrument. And the way you use your instrument is to use your instrument. When you're not even around people, talk to yourself. And that sounds mad, but talk to yourself. Find a topic and talk about that topic, a topic you find exciting. Talk about it.
It's important to consider the limitations associated with modern society when communicating a subject. Technology was once, and still is, a fantastic and great asset to reach a broad audience. However, digital disruption is also a real factor to consider. Andrew Athright, lead facilitator at Mesh Points Australia, tells us what's important to consider when delivering a message in the modern age.
So the first thing I just want to talk about is a bit about perception. Our experience, as you're experiencing it now, is not sort of actually objective. Like when we talk about what reality is, you can look at all sorts of research studies into the reliability of eyewitness accounts of accidents. And I'm going to post some links on Twitter after. There's a great little paper by Tversky and Fisher on the unreliability of eyewitnesses. As in this room now, you're all actually having a totally different experience. You're not actually objectively experiencing what's happening. You're filtering out what's meaningful for you, and you're experiencing sort of, even visually, a very, very small part of what's actually going on. And your mind, your brain is doing an incredible job of filling in the rest. Your experience of reality also lags behind what's actually happening by about half a second. Your perception is not reality, and the filter that affects your perception of reality is what you think is valuable to you. Your existing values and beliefs are different to those of another. So if you're communicating with others, even if your views as a science communicator you feel are like true, you still usually mostly believe them. As in, you believe space is a vacuum, or that you couldn't breathe up there, but you haven't like been there and checked it out. Or you may believe things about the chemistry of molecules, but you've not actually sort of experienced that yourself, but you believe it to be true because it's validated by objective science. But given this sort of, that your experience of reality and perceptions of it aren't objectively true, you can understand why sort of another person with a different worldview and different set of understandings and beliefs about what makes a valid truth might say, well, I think it's true not just because it's validated by science, but because all the other people I'm hanging out with, they also believe that's the truth. And that's my sort of validity for that being objectively true. Like building and managing a community online is a tremendous amount of work. And just growing something that just, I don't know, let's see where it goes. Like improv style, just like build momentum is probably much better. And when it gets overwhelming because you've got so many people participating, oh, sure, then build something that's a bit more structured and automated. But listening to your audience is really clear, really important. Being clear about your commitments and costs and criteria, what form it might take, how expensive or what level of investment you're prepared to make in it, and what you think the purpose of that online community is. The relationship to that first part is that of the sort of experience and presentation about communication is it's almost like just be really honest and realise that your interests and what you're trying to do could be really interesting to others, or that other people like you, and taking that sort of deliberate, honest, authentic lead on it and contribution appropriate to the context is a very, very powerful way to be sort of effortlessly effective. But you can't do that if you're not aware of your own perceptions, your own communication styles, your own distorted view of what you think is reality. And without some, sort of awareness and reflection on your own habits and patterns of contributions to communities and how you're being influenced and affected by others, and allowing that to sort of be the case. Yeah, so I guess what I'm referring to is that when someone says this is the truth or it's true, people have different criteria by which they're assessing that. And in the world of science, you have some sort of things about it being repeatable, observable, validated by others, etc. But some people don't believe in science as a way to validate truth. Their truth is what I think. Like, they don't care about even the idea that objective validation of facts is more important or makes something more valid than just I think it or all my friends think it. And so if you're playing in the world of another who has no science education, whose dominant source of news and everything is their Facebook feed, which is only their Facebook friends, only in their geographic location, and their interests are motorsport, then trying to argue that like valid objective scientific facts are important and relevant to their life is like, it's not in their experience. They may not even perceive that that's important. So I guess the point I was just trying to make is like, you have beliefs and that they have beliefs too. And so if you're playing in the world of another who has no science education, whose dominant source of news and everything is their Facebook feed, which is only their Facebook friends, only in their geographic location, and their interests are motorsport, then trying to argue that like valid objective scientific facts are important and relevant to their life is like, it's not in their experience. They wouldn't even perceive they may not even perceive that that's important. So I guess the point I was just trying to make is like, you have beliefs. Like, check it out, you have beliefs. You haven't experienced the truth of some of the science you may be trying to communicate. And that they have beliefs too. And recognising that's sort of true, an important place to start.
Our final presentation today will look at how to best deliver a message in a post-truth world. For those unaware, post-truth was Word of the Year 2016 by the Oxford Dictionary and is defined as relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion or personal belief. We will hear first from Gulrich Ecker, Associate Professor at the University of Western Australia in the School of Psychological Science. Much of his research interests include human memory and in particular the processing of misinformation. We will then hear a brief segment by Tim Young, Science Wrangler at SciTech, astrophysicist and human cyborg. I would like to point out that there was a third panel member, Kylie Sturgis. She is the host of the Token Skeptic podcast and also the president of the Atheist Foundation of Australia. She gave a fantastic presentation about religion and the census. Unfortunately, out of context, not much of it made sense. So I'll look into releasing that presentation later with her permission. But for now, let's hear from Gulrich and Tim.
The most effective corrections come when people trust you, okay? Trust seems to be a really big driver, and that's maybe not very surprising. What's more surprising is that the expertise of the person correcting the misinformation seems to play no role. It doesn't matter if they have a PhD in whatever. What really matters is that they're trusted. Okay, so if you can do anything to enhance the trustworthiness of the source of your communication, that's a really important thing. Also, from a psychological point of view, if people are living in this online world, in a digital world, spending a lot of time online, they are psychologically distant from the real world, and they don't have any consequences for their actions. They can bully and, spread allegations online. They have not experienced real world consequences. They can just sit behind their screen and do whatever they want, and that's something to consider as well. Trust is key, so you need to build some rapport, listen to what people actually want and what they need, affirm that they have a right to have an opinion, but that they should try and interact with evidence, and then correct. Don't just go in and blurt, you're wrong.
We haven't stopped evolving, by the way. We do still evolve slowly. It's a very slow process. But what we have reached is a point in our biological cycle of the human species where we are better at changing our environment, and we are better at doing it faster than our environment can change us. So we are less likely to change through natural selection to meet our environment as we are to change the environment. I mean, let's face it, today, how many minutes have you spent outside of a temperature-controlled environment? You wake up in one, you walk to your car, that takes about 30 seconds. You get in your car, that's temperature-controlled. You drive here, you park, you get out, that's another 30 seconds. We spent some time out in the sun with lunch, although some of us did prefer to spend it inside again. So already we haven't reached about an hour for some of us. So we are in this stage now where technology is so pervasive that we've started to change the way that our bodies actually work and respond to it. There is no definition for what a moon is. Perth or Australia could have 1, 2, 3, or 8 moons, depending on your different definition of moon. It's ridiculous. But until we have these definitions, we're not actually able to accurately sort of describe these things. So a lot of these arguments that we have trouble with, we have trouble because they are emotive arguments. And that's one of the things that we're hoping to sort of break down here, is to get rid of the emotion and start talking about the facts and getting people to relate to things on a much more realistic and hopefully positive manner.
Thank you very much for tuning into Vaguely Accurate. I hope you learned something today and you found this special episode both educational and inspiring. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe to us, rate and review us on iTunes. It really does help. If you would like to get in contact or even feature on an episode to share your research in the future, get in touch with us via Twitter at Vaguely Accurate, on Facebook, or via our website, vaguelyaccurate.com. Or you can email us directly at vaguecomments@gmail.com. Take care, guys.
And the problem here was the statistical method, the SMS2, I think it's called, statistical method for analyzing the data is so susceptible to confirmation bias that it starts finding patterns and then reinforces it and reinforces it and reinforces it. And eventually you get a salmon that is crying about a man at a funeral.